Admittedly, they finally got nominated, but you tell me why they didn't get nominated the first year. I just don't understand
First 3 years.
Certainly the first 2 years. I mean, but I don't even understand why year one. I mean, admittedly, I'm very biased towards the band.
Yeah.
But come on. It should have been a slam dunk.
Yeah, to quote
And
David Lee Roth.
And we had to wait 3 years. And, of course, the band's dysfunction screwed that up, too. As did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, by the way, because the induction by Velvet Revolver was embarrassingly bad. And you would think a band of Van Halen's caliber would rate higher than that, but no. So the whole thing was just a cluster, F-U-C-K.
That's right.
From beginning to end. And it's just sad. It's just really, as a fan, it was really sad. And we were there, Dave. And that's the scary part. We were there because we had always said, if they're getting inducted, we're going.
That's right.
And we went.
We went.
And we were the only day there.
That's right.
Roth was a no-show, and the only people attending were ex-members of Van Halen. So the whole thing was just a giant mess.
It was a mess.
But Ron, you're technically right. But come on, bro. You know what I was saying.
Yeah.
Come on.
Absolutely, man. Come on. Well, let me tell you something, Dave. Nothing in this world gets me harder than you bashing Midwest Ron.
I think the only thing that does is the fact that Midwest Ron was calling me out for a change instead of you.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that is my July gift to you.
Oh, well, let me tell you something. That's better than the photos you sent me of in your banana hammock.
Oh, well, hey, whatever works for you.
Hey, look, whatever gets the job done at this point.
Right, exactly.
Splitting hairs. Literally, splitting hairs. All right, so the next letter comes from Eric Torbeck, and he says, hey guys, just finished the Bash cast, and it was amazing. First off, Secret's acoustic was phenomenal, and Romeo Delight absolutely killed it. Listening to it took me back to the days when I get a new bootleg. I had no idea what song was coming up next. Thanks for a great listen. It's definitely the loudest I've cranked a podcast. And my question for you this month is, I recently rewatched Live Without a Net, and you remember Sammy saying, ain't talk about love, from the ceiling truss above the stage, hanging over the audience. And it appears in the video that he didn't have any type of harness or protective gear. I think he did this gimmick every show that tour. No way could he have done that without any protection. I know he's crazy, but is he that nuts? Eric Torbeck. Well, Eric, yes, Sam is a bit of a daredevil. I personally think he did that because he couldn't jump like Dave. He did it at my show. He did it at my show in July of 1986 at the Meadowlands, for sure. He also kind of like, how do I explain this? He was like in the area where the lighting guys like to rig up the lights. They have like little chutes where they walk. He wasn't really hanging. He would lean over here and there, but he would grab onto like a piece. He sort of like, it made like he was hanging, but he was really in the lighting guys' little trusses, but it's still dangerous. I agree with you. In regards to Romeo Delight, Buddy Blanchard, the lead singer, he got me a copy of the soundboard recording from Van Halen Bash, and the band really killed it, so I figured let's give you guys a full fucking double gonzo album, to borrow a term from Uncle Ted. Thank you to Buddy for that, and go see these guys. They're playing in August, and listen to the podcast. They put on a great show. It's like having a double live album. It's fantastic. What do you make of this, Dave?
Always give 2 thumbs up to Romeo Delight. That was a good show.
Yep.
And as far as the Sammy thing, I think it was the 80s, so it was probably the safety features that may have been in there now weren't there then. Right. So, Sam had to go improve himself.
Of course.
He's a wild and crazy guy.
He is. And he had a lot to live up to in terms of stage presence and stuff like
that. For sure.
So we are on to letter number 8, and that comes from a new listener, Dave. His name is Pontus Scold. Good luck getting that right, Dave. Very nice. So
the umlauts that throw you off.
But listen to this. This guy is from Sweden. And he says, I'm from the land that brought you ABBA, IKEA, and neoclassical douchebag shredders.
Wow, that's pretty harsh, that last part.
Somewhere Yngve is crying.
Right, right.
I have been a huge Van Halen fan since high school, where my friend played I'm the One for Me, and I was totally blown away. He says, I stumbled upon your podcast a few weeks back, and I was hooked instantly. A perfect mix of humor, fact, discussion, nerdiness, and genuine love for the band. I listen to you guys every day since I discovered the cast, and I love it. While I have tons of questions and semi-corrections regarding stuff you have been talking on the cast, I'll go with this one since I need to get this out of my system. How in the name of everything sacred is it possible about a band fronted by a guy named Dave and is hosted by two guys named Dave, using several close sources and fans and friend named Dave? When the host gets mailbag section, every guy who writes in is named Dave. This is starting to look like a podcast episode of The Twilight Zone. You guys should probably consider changing the name of the podcast to Dave and Dave Unchained, featuring Dave, and David. On a more serious note, you guys are doing a fantastic job, and I look forward to many more hours of juicy VH talk in the future. Keep up the good work. And he calls himself Not So Midwest Pun. Wow, he's making a little note there. And,
very clever, very clever.
I'm going to change his name to Mid-Atlantic Pond. How about that? So, anyway, he says, a non-Van Halen or podcast-related thing, I play lead guitar in sort of an 80s styles AOR melodic rock band called Wildness. Even though we sound nothing like Van Halen except for some tapping solos, I thought you guys might like it. We released our debut album in 2017, are currently recording our follow-up. And I just wanted to play a little clip of the band right here. So we want to thank you, Mr. Pond, for listening to us all the way in Sweden. Hopefully your fans, you can look them up on Spotify. Their album is available. Wildness is the name of the band, and you can listen to more of that. So we listened to some of that. It's got some real 80s flavors in there if you like that type of stuff. In terms of the name Dave, I guess it's a popular name in America. We don't have too many Pontiuses. You have a cool rock name, Pontius Scold. So, that's a fun thing to have there. What do you make of this, Dave?
I've been surrounded by Daves my whole life.
Oh.
Well, it was like the most popular name when we were born.
Is that true?
It was yeah.
Okay.
It was David and Michael. And I've been going to school with David and Michaels like my whole life. And even now at work, there are literally at least a half a dozen guys in the office named Dave. And my whole life, I have rarely gone by my first name. It's always been my last name because there's always another Dave in the room.
Right.
So get relegated to last name status. Okay. So I really don't know why my mother even named me because I could have just went by my last name like I do now.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. So I'm not surprised because most fans of the band and the podcast are the same generation we are.
Yeah.
So the fact that there's Daves piling in left and right doesn't shock me at all. Been my whole life.
Wow.
So why should it stop now?
I got one. I'm going to top you right there. So I don't get called Dave in my office either. You get your last name. You're like a last name guy. I'm a last name guy too. I get that all the time. Except your last name is a lot easier to pronounce than my last name. Everybody always gets it wrong. So people have taken to calling me Cribby in my office. I like that shit.
Wow, you must not love that at all.
I do not, but there's nothing I can do about it. They just do it. I just kind of roll with it. I just say, whatever. What am I going to do? Just like John Corabi. You know John Corabi? Everybody calls him Crab.
Really?
Yeah. Swear to God,
well,
everybody calls him Crab.
I always say, call me whatever you want. Just
whatever.
Call me.
Yeah, exactly. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So the next letter comes from Johnny from Fred Vegas, Virginia. And he says, hey, my name is Johnny, and I got turned on to your podcast a while back and caught up with every episode, and I have to say how much I enjoy it. Speaking of podcasts, I have to say I have come to find that the Roth show is a lot like Van Halen 3. If you give it a chance, it grows on you. It doesn't hurt being a little stoned when you listen to earn that heat. Can you imagine? during that
That's probably the only way I would ever be able to get through it.
That's true. But he said, let's stay focused. I really wanted to share my Van Halen story with you guys. I'm 36 years old, so I have so many memories of the band. With Sammy at the front, he grew up with Sam being the lead singer from when he came into the band, and he didn't discover the Dave era until he was 13. His parents got him a best of CD, and he really didn't listen to it immediately. However, one day that changed, and he listened to the CD and then started rushing out and buying all the Van Halen albums, and he became addicted. My teen years, I started getting bootlegs off of eBay and VHS copies of the Ozfest and shows from the Fair Warning, Diver Down 1984 tours, not to mention the countless bootlegs. But his addiction didn't end there. He became fascinated with Eddie's guitar craftsmanship and started modifying his own guitars in the same manner. And he also said he is a month away from getting married, and his awesome fiancée, Rachel, has become a bit of a Van Halen fan and has allowed him the freedom to incorporate Van Halen music into his wedding. His groomsmen will enter into the piano arrangement of Dreams. His fiancée will enter into the piano version of Love Walks In. The introduction of the bridal party at the reception will be top of the world. And finally, because his fiancée is a high school art teacher, I'm taking off her garter too hot for teacher.
That's pretty cool that she agreed to that.
That's great. And he said he's been practicing the slide Dave does in the 1984 Montreal show, and he hopes that he doesn't hurt himself too badly. Wow. And he says, Dave will be happy to hear I have no what-ifs questions for him.
Excellent.
And he says, bottoms up, stay frosty, Johnny from Fred, Vegas, Virginia. Well, Johnny, I'm so glad to hear about your deep dive into Van Halen. I remember doing those journeys back when I was a kid, discovering each album at a time. That is so much fun to do. And I'm actually curious about your perspective, Johnny, on the band. It's almost like the scenario Shannon the Dude was talking about, in the sense that you experienced Sammy Hagar as the lead singer first and then David Lee Roth. So I would love to hear about that if you ever want to write back in. I love the wedding touches. It's cool that your wife-to-be is so down with that. I'd love to hear about that. Unfortunately, that's not happening in my house, where I can't even play Van Halen out loud. It's one of the rules, as they say in the business. So what do you make of Johnny's Van Halen wedding nuptials?
I think that's cool how he's worked it in
Very
it in there. I mean, but nicely, like tastefully, you know, really.
Yeah.
So hats off to the happy couple.
Yeah.
Mazel tov is what people like to say.
Exactly. And he didn't even have to steep into When It's Love. He actually stayed above that. So
that's interesting.
And he blended
good
Dave
call.
and Sam. That's cool.
Our kind of Van Halen fan.
Yeah, exactly. So now the next letter comes from Devon, the guitar man Miller. He says, thank you for reading my letter on the last podcast. You asked for proof that the black and white Frankenstein guitar from Van Halen 1 is the same as the red, black and white Frankenstein from the early 80s. Here is a link below from Eddie Van Halen himself. Around 1 minute and 30 seconds, he confirms they are the same guitar. Here is another link where Eddie talks about painting the guitar black and white and about the fate of the yellow and black Frankenstrat. Around 1 minute and 15 seconds, he talks about painting it. Around 2 minutes and 40 seconds, he talked about adding the red coat, and he confirms the original yellow and black Frankenstrat was buried with Dimebag Darrell. Finally, here is a link to the Van Halen news desk from 2014 detailing the original black and white Frankenstrat was painted red, including pictures of the guitar, narrowing it down to the exact week in March of 1979. As far as whether the red and black and white guitar and Frankenstrat in the exhibit is original or not, by all accounts it is the original. I was never disputing that. Don't sick Midwest Ron on me. Wow, people are fearing Ron. The question was asked whether the black and white Frankenstrat guitar in the New York Metropolitan Museum exhibit was original or replica. The point I am making is the original black and white Frankenstrat doesn't exist anymore after 1979, so it is not possible for any current day black and white Frankenstrat guitar to be the original. Hope this clears up any confusion. Love the podcast. Look forward to it every month. Keep up the good work. Devon the Guitar Man Miller. So, okay, Devon, we got it. I think you have ended this whole scenario. To recap, the black and white Frankenstrat guitar in the exhibit is a replica because the real one has been transformed into the red, white, black Frankenstrat guitar, which is the original from the exhibit. And that one is in the exhibit currently. Okay, we are all good. Let's put this to rest.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Done.
Motion.
We're moving on.
We're moving on to letter number 11 from Daniel Sinclair. And he says, hey guys, a fan from Wales in the UK. Love your podcast. Listen to it while I'm cleaning my apartment on days off. Just a quick question regarding my personal hero, Michael fucking Anthony. Always surprised how little love this man gets. Ahem. Noel Monk calling him the luckiest son of a bitch on the planet. Mikey was the shit hot baby